feel different.
Hmm?
I'll be leaving now.
All right. Taha, what happened? Did the dwarf destroy the room?
He did.
I see. Well, something is off. Myra, she's different.
What?
Myra?
I don't know. I feel strange, cold.
See? That bloody ruin, it did something to her mind.
Lady Myra, what do you mean by cold?
Dark. Empty. I don't know how to describe it. Forgive me.
But you remember who you are, don't you?
I am Lady Myra Emmeline Arendir, third-born daughter of House Utrin.
But we destroyed it.
That's my point. Her mind, it must have suffered permanent damage. None of this should have happened. None of it. Myra, you should get some rest. Things might be different tomorrow.
Yes, brother. As you say.
Come, let us call your companions. There's things that need discussing.
Let's see.
I've been wondering, do you have a family? Heirs?
That question came unexpected.
Is it so hard to answer?
It isn't. No. I don't have a family. Save for my sisters.
How come?
Well, I'm afraid to understand my answer, I need to go back a little. You see, I had always known what my life would look like, long before it became what it is. You see, House Arendir is one of the eldest of Northander. The role of every Arendir had already been chosen the moment he or she was given birth to. For me, it was always clear that I would be the Lord Marshal of the Royal Army.
So your parents forced you to do this?
Let me put it this way. It was my duty. Of course, I could have rebelled, but even back then, I had already come to realize that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Sure, I too had had my share of boyhood dreams, but betraying my parents and the realm had never been an option.
Being a royal commander sounds an awful lot like a boyhood dream to me.
I guess it does. But you need to keep in mind that we Arendirs were raised for this. I knew from the start that a military path had little to do with the tale of brave knights in shining armor from the poems and the plays. People, especially in youth, often crave for what they don't have. The fisherman's daughter might dream of a life as a princess, whereas the princess aches for the charming vagabond to take her to an exotic place, far away from her life of etiquette, stern-faced governesses, and arranged marriage.
So, you were looking for something else, too?
From time to time, yes, certainly. You see, one of my uncles had been a seaman. His branch of the family was by far the least powerful one, but whenever he came to visit, I didn't leave his side for a minute. He had sailed to Kalea to meet with the Blood Oracle, to Imperia, to the great Colosseums, and once he had even sailed all around the lands of winter. You can imagine that for me as a boy, His stories were a lot more exciting than my lessons in math, history, and politics. And more than once after his visits, I found myself lying in bed and wondering what it would be like to just pack my bags, enlist on one of the trade ships, and see all these marvels my uncle had told me about myself. A foolish fantasy, of course, but still, it existed.
Is your uncle still alive?
No. His ship ran aground when I was 14 winters old.
But yet, you never seriously contemplated becoming a seaman.
No. I was young, yes, but I wasn't a fool. Even if duty and loyalty had not been a concern of mine, I knew that my uncle only told me about the good parts of his life. He never spoke of how a snowstorm cost him 3 of his fingers, and why he always carried a bottle of brandy wherever he went.
For what it's worth, I think staying was the right choice.
I'm glad you approve. Either way, we digress.
I still don't understand why becoming the Lord Marshal stopped you from having a family.
It was a choice. I probably don't need to tell you this, but love and marriage are as much a duty as any other. You cannot be a good husband or a good wife if you don't commit entirely. And the same goes for parenthood. And the higher I rose, the more I realized that people in my position, whose decisions affect the lives of tens of thousands, can and should only have one commitment.
Their duty.
Yes. I know it sounds dramatic, but it's the truth. I chose not to have a family, because the realm was my wife and its people were my children. Allowing somebody else into my life would have meant betraying the others.
But there are commanders that have families.
And they have them at an expense. If life taught me anything, then it's that excellence requires absolute dedication. And with the responsibilities that I have, I simply cannot allow myself to be distracted.
What about the Arendir bloodline? Who will carry on your name if you don't have an heir?
My sister, Myra.
But isn't she a widow?
Yes. Her husband, Lord Uhtred, died in the Mage Wars. But she's still young, and once we've ended this madness, I will encourage her to look for a new, suitable partner.
Well, your dedication is definitely admirable.
Maybe. But we've wasted enough time. You wanted an answer, and that was it. Is there anything else you wanted to know?
I'll be leaving now.
All right. All right. Now that my sister is safe and we have the Utran army beside us, we need to discuss our course of action. As I've hinted at already, there are two more problems we need to take care of before we can gather to convince the other royal houses to join forces with us and reconquer Greykeep.
Lekain's Iron Ones, and the Leonida forces.
Iron Ones? You mean these giant walking armors?
Yes. We need to destroy the place where the Purity manufactures them. And we need to eliminate Amaria Leonida, who has allied herself with the Harbinger.
House Leonida has the strongest army in Nortander. Wouldn't it be wiser to forge the alliance with Wolfgar and Hallet first and then deal with them?
It would, but Leonida is controlling the borders. In other words, until we've taken care of her and the Ironborn, we couldn't move the Wolfgar or Hallet forces, even if they agreed to an alliance.
Any idea what these Iron Ones actually are? Golems?
No, I doubt it. They have the magical signature of a human. I guess we'll need to find out.
Yes, though I'm fairly certain the Harbinger's new magic has to do with it. The Archfire.
But if that's the case, how are we supposed to deal with them?
Well, according to my scouts, there is a place where they are being created by whatever unholy power is behind this. And it seems that this smeltery, if you want to call it that, is in the Windwall foothills.
So we travel to Windwall and burn down that factory. Is that the plan?
Yes. It's a simple task, but it won't be easy. We can be sure that the Purity is doing all in their power to protect it.
Amaria Leonida allied herself with the Harbinger? Why?
Because she's probably the most ardent follower of the Purity's teaching. She was the first truly influential Nortandian to repent when Lekain's new religion was founded, and also the first to declare her unconditional loyalty after Lekain showed his true face and took over Greyfell.
Could that also have something to do with what happened during the Mage War? That her sons fell in the last battle against my father?
I'm pretty sure it has. Did you know that she attempted to commit suicide? That was only months after the Queen had put an end to her father's doing. So yes, her loyalty to the Purity almost certainly has to do with her losses. She also despises you, as is Samo Taha's child, from the bottom of her heart.
That's not good. How do you plan to neutralize her? We can't just move our army into Leonida territory. That would be suicide.
Well, that's where we got lucky. Amaria Leonida has taken up position in the Eye.
In the marshlands? Why?
My guess is as good as yours, but I suppose it has to do with your father's laboratory. I doubt Lekain is done with it.
So, Amaria is leading the army herself? How? I didn't know she knew about warfare.
Well, word has it that the Harbinger has, how should I say, granted Amaria a gift as a token of gratitude for her loyalty. Magical powers, in other words. Maybe even a part of this Archfire energy. No, I don't know if these rumors are true, but we'll have to consider them when we make our plan.
Well, seems like this will be quite the battle.
Indeed. Which is why we need a good strategy.
Fair enough. Then let's start making preparations.
Good. I'll be here if you need me.
Corporal Tahar?
Yes, Corporal? How can I help?
Would you be willing to tell me more about your friend?
You seem to be quite adamant about this, aren't you? Fine, if you insist. What do you want to know?
How close were you and her exactly?
That's hard to say. We had sex in all those 5 years. She never left my side. So some people might have considered us lovers, but I'm not sure we ever felt that way towards each other. You see, I don't feel emotions the same way other people do. And neither did Mila. The feelings the bards all sing about, I never had them. And I doubt I am capable of feeling them at all. This bond we had, We had it because we were alike. Because she understood me and I understood her. Without saying a word. And I doubt I will ever have that feeling again.
When you say you were alike, what does that mean? That she also hardly felt emotions?
Yes. But whereas for me, it had been becoming a dreamweaver that had made me who I am. Myla had simply been born that way. There was no logical reason for her condition. It was just what fate, or the gods, had given her.
I understand.
Maybe you do.
Was she an assassin as well?
She was, yes.
What was she like?
That's a difficult question to answer. Compared to me, I would describe her as more cheerful, more talkative. She enjoyed the company of other people far more than I did. Of course, that conviviality was mostly a charade. Her interest in other people was genuine, but it was mainly because she wanted to study them. It was almost as if, until the very end, she believed that she could somehow overcome her nature. Of course, it didn't work.
How did she... how did it happen? The blood burn?
Well, I presume you are familiar with how the disease progresses, so there's no need to explain that part. As for when and where, we were with a small caravan near Everlight, on our way back to Greyfell. We had made camp in a small forest when the symptoms first showed. An old man, one of the caravan leaders, started coughing blood. I think everybody saw, but they all acted as if they hadn't. From that point on, it went straight downhill. Almost 3/4 of the group were infected. And by the next day, a young boy had blood running from his eyes. Do you know what's strange?
What?
Up until that point, I didn't even consider the fact that Myla was infected as well. The thought just didn't ever cross my mind.
How did you find out?
A blister. On the third morning after that night in the forest, she took a bath in a nearby river and I saw it. That was it. I knew what would happen. And so did she. I insisted on riding back to Everlight and looking for a healer. An irrational thing to do, and I knew it. But I figured that a chance was better than none. But she wouldn't have it. I want to tell life when it's over, not the other way around. That's what she had always told me. And that night, it turned out she meant it.
She took her own life.
Yes. When I returned to the camp that night, I found a letter where she told me to meet her at a nearby clearing. I did, and found her laying on the grass, hands crossed behind her head, as if she was watching the moon. There was an empty bottle next to her, and I immediately recognized it. It was the merciful slumber, the most painless of poisons at our disposal. When you drink it, it's almost like falling asleep, very slowly. She was smiling when she faded away.
How do you feel about her decision?
How should I feel? It was her decision. And it was the most rational choice to make. Dying of the blood burn is incredibly painful. And she avoided that pain. Her last memories were ones of peace.
For what it's worth, I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you. Anyway, is there anything else you wanted to ask?
What's the matter?
I have news. Bad news.
Report.
The Iron Falcons from Aenir's Blade. They've sent word. A dragon has appeared near the canyon. An elder.
An elder? You mean...
Yes. From the legends.
What? But they've been asleep for centuries.
Well, apparently not.
Are you sure this isn't a mistake?
Quite sure. The Iron Falcons found 3 keepers torn apart and scorched in a way that only a dragon could do it. But what's even more alarming is that the Falcons believe that said dragon is heading our way.
Why?
I don't know, Corporal. I just don't know. What are your orders?
What if the scouts are wrong, and the dragon isn't here for us?
That is a possibility.
We need to confirm the rumor.
But how? I'm only a scout, Corporal. By the way I see it, we only have 2 options. Wait or act. If we wait, the dragon might attack Mulandir without us being prepared. If we act, at least we're the ones who decide where the confrontation will happen.
Huh. You have a point. Where is the dragon now? Is it moving?
I don't think so. According to the Falcons, it has landed in a small oasis in the scorching desert. A 1 or 2 day journey from Aenir's Blade. What will you do, Corporal? I know this war is already taking up all of your resources, but we cannot just stand by and watch while that creature comes at us, can we?
I'll travel to the oasis and see for myself.
I understand. You want me to tell the others?
I'll do it when we head out. Dismissed, Private.
Sir.
Huh?
I'm still wondering what made you leave Kalea and travel the world to study demonology.
You're not letting this one go, are you? Alright, if your life depends on it, I'll tell you. To make it short, I grew up in the slums of Kalea. A shithole if ever there was one. Just imagine an entire quarter made up of half-ruined shacks with the smell of shit and piss everywhere. And way too many people. Then add the tropical heat to it and you've got the place I grew up in. My father had left right after I was born. My mother is what you call a day laborer. Though the days when she wasn't laboring outweighed the ones when she did. Whatever job there was, she took it. Even if it was cleaning the shit out of Kalaean canals. She worked hard, but it just wasn't enough. We lived in a windowless room and I shared a bed with my mother for the first 14 years of my life. Long story short, after a while my mother simply couldn't cover the expenses anymore. The rent for our room went up and jobs became less and less, since the mage wars in Northander also affected the trade in Kalea. So my mother looked for someone to help her out, and found one. A man named Creo. He was a loan shark who had it all. A stupid name and a shady beard. 2 lackeys who followed him wherever he went. And above all, a complete lack of what other people would call decency.
I think I can see where this is going.
Sure you can. It's not the most unique of stories, is it? To cut to the chase, 1 year later we were in massive debt. Creo suggested my mother another way of making up for it. You can fill in the blanks. I was just too weak. Over and over this fucking bastard came. Had my mother tell me to go for a walk. And every time I had no choice but to obey. Do you have any idea how that feels, Tahar? To be that powerless? I remember one day I looked in the mirror and realized how much I hated the boy I saw. I hated his body with all its frail bones, his small arms, his bloodshot wet eyes. And that's when I decided to change things. So the next time he came, I fought back.
How did that go?
What do you think? He beat me up. And it was the same next time and the time after that. At first he found it funny. But after the 4th time he threatened to kill me. The only thing that stopped him from doing it is because my mother begged him to. And I had only made it worse. On my 14th name day I left home and joined up with the Kalayan sand prowlers. My mother begged me not to go. But I just couldn't. Standing there and watching this fucking bastard walk into our room again and again whenever he felt like it, I just couldn't. Dying would have been better than staying. The way I figured it was that if I earned enough money to pay Mother's debts, Kriya would leave her alone. Once I was strong enough, I'd come back. Wait for him to show up again. And then, well, you can imagine the rest.
I think I can. So who were these sand prowlers?
A group of mercenaries. They took me in and trained me. And even though they were skeptical at first, they quickly realized that my determination made up for what my body was lacking. When I was 16 and I discovered my magic, one of their leaders made me his apprentice. The arcane universities are a shithole made up of boy-loving old geezers who care more about how you wear your hair than about your magic. I'll tell you the real thing. And that she did.
Was that sand prowler mage also who introduced you to demonology?
What? No, she was a mediocre mage at best. The most powerful thing she could do was lighting someone's hair on fire. Though of course she didn't see it that way. After 1 year I was already stronger than her, and I started my own studies.
What was it like to work with the sand prowlers?
Well, if you were hoping for stories of sex, adventure, and intrigue, I have to disappoint you. Most of it was nasty stuff. Fighting in wars which you knew were wrong, beating up people who were practically helpless. But then again, the Kalayan Guard was no better than that. It was a case of pick your poison.
What about your plan to pay your mother's debts? Did that work out?
Well, I thought so at first, but we'll get there.
Huh. So did you ever return to your mother?
Of course. On my 18th name day. I had wanted to return earlier, but a contract had me kept overseas for a lot longer than I had expected. Sorry. It's strange to talk about it.
What happened?
My mother. She was gone. Her room had been cleared out, and the neighbors told me she passed away unexpectedly just 3 weeks before I arrived. Her heart just stopped beating.
I'm sorry.
Why? It was a natural death. She was old when she gave birth to me, and the life on the Kalayan streets isn't forgiving. In other words, it was bound to happen. I went into the room and looked for our stash. A small casket under the floorboards. I found it, opened it, and saw all the money I'd sent her over the years.
So...
She never used it to pay Creo as I instructed her. I have no idea why, but my best guess is that she thought it was mine since I earned it. She was that kind of person, you know? No matter how hard fate punched her in the face, she'd cling on to her ideals. Always did what was right rather than what was good for herself. And look what she got in return.
Did you ever visit her grave?
I did, but it was a mass grave. Dozens of corpses, all piled onto each other, and some earth shoveled on top of it. I threw up when I saw it, and never came back after that.
What about Creo?
Well, as you can imagine, I went to look for him. Right after I was able to think straight again. But he was gone.
Where?
I don't know. I asked everywhere and everyone who could know, and they either didn't or gave me different information. After a while, I gave up.
Why?
Because people like Creo are just a reality we have to deal with. I could have killed him, but what good would it have done? My mother was dead, and no amount of bloodshed and gut tearing could have changed that. The world doesn't give a fuck about your ideals, Tahar. About doing the right thing. That's just the shit we tell ourselves to help us sleep at night. You eat or you get eaten. It's that simple. I wasn't strong enough when I should have been. And that's why I couldn't help her. That will never happen again.
I guess you're right.
I am. To wrap up the story, I enrolled at the university from the money my mother saved for me. Turned out the Sandprowler mage was wrong. There were some boy-loving professors, but they knew their shit. I studied and practiced until there was nothing left to study. Then I found out about demonology and the power in it. I quit university, and I've been traveling ever since. Taking jobs as a mercenary here and there, but above all, improving my skills. My last stop was Bar Gagora to summon a devourer.
Huh. Interesting story. Thanks for your trust, Uram.
Sure. Hope you're happy.
Interesting.
There you are. Tahar, I found something incredible.
What is it?
Remember how I asked you for permission to examine your mother's body? Undergas and I did that yesterday.
I hope you know that wasn't an easy decision for me.
Yeah, Tahar, I know. And believe me, we were respectful. Save for that strange stasis, her body's still unscathed.
So? Were you able to learn anything?
We did. And this is what I'm so excited about. That jewel in the front part of her cranium. At first, we thought it was simply an ornament to mark her as a member of the priest caste, but it's more than that. It has magical properties.
But it's still an ornament, isn't it? She wasn't born with it.
No, she wasn't. As I said, the different castes had different ornaments worked into their bodies, and while the ornaments of the lower castes were probably just adornments, those of the higher castes were actually magical.
What kind of magical properties?
It's somewhat similar to the Harbinger's rune. It's essentially a magical talisman that made them smarter and stronger. Long story short, despite her spirit being gone, the ornament still seems to be active. I think we could remove it.
Isn't that dangerous?
I'm close to certain it isn't. The ornaments are really just jewelry, like a ring, only woven into the flesh. I think we can remove it without causing your mother's body any harm. But then again, there's no way of knowing for sure.
And what for?
As I said, the jewel is magical. If you wear it, say, as a talisman, it could increase your magical powers significantly. It could really help us in our fight against Lacane.
All right. Do it.
Of course. Give me a moment, will you? Shouldn't take long. All right, Tahar. It worked. Here, take a look. Can you feel it? It's amazing.
And you're sure it didn't damage your body?
Pretty sure. Removing the jewel only caused a small wound, and I stitched it up right away. It should be fine. Now, take a look. Do you feel that energy?
You're right. It's immense.
Well, I guess now we know why the lower castes revered the priests as gods. Telepathy, magical ornaments. They were almost superhuman, so to speak. Either way, I think it'll help you on the field. Thanks again for your trust, Tahar.
South of Leonida and east of Hallett lies the scorching desert, a place as inhospitable as it is dangerous. The desert is uninhabited save for the dust-crawler orcs, a nomadic orc tribe that roams the dunes in search of fresh water. With a throat as dry as parchment and a throbbing headache, you arrive at the place your scouts described, a small oasis amidst the blazing ocean of sand. Despite the heat, you feel a cold lump forming inside your stomach. Something is nearby. Something powerful.
The Falcons were right, Tahar. There is a dragon nearby.
So you think it actually is an Elder?
It's possible. Everything we see and everything we do leaves a minor echo in our aura. The ones we leave behind when we die. That creature has millions of echoes woven into its aura. In other words, it has been on this world for millennia.
That's comforting. Remind me, Tahar, why did we just bring one battalion here and not our entire army?
Because the Purity will notice if we move our entire army and could use the opportunity to attack. Right now, nobody knows we're here. Now let's head out.
Huh? This way, right?
Shit. That was a painful death.
And it wasn't caused by normal fire. These people melted. You read my mind.
Careful.
This one looks as though he's been mauled. And he's wearing an unusual armor, isn't he?
Huh. Do you see these crystals in his skin? They look an awful lot like the ones we found on the Hibernian island, don't they?
You're right.
Up ahead.
Let me see.
Huh? Didn't expect to see travelers all the way out here. Tundea.
Tundia? That sounds Hibernian.
It does, because it is. We're Valis Draigin, dragon hunters, as you'd call it. Which is why I urge you to head right back where you came from. The Dragin, an elder dragon just waiting to sink its fangs into you. As it has done with the idiots you've probably seen on the wayside.
So you're actually Hibernian dragon hunters?
Well, we're not 800 years old, so we're obviously descendants.
I hate to break it to you, but the only proven direct descendant of Hibernia is Queen Aelith.
Our order has been around for over 100 years now. We've found Hibernian blood all over Nortander. I'm not surprised you don't know us. Most people don't. Even though if it weren't for us, half of Nortander would be eaten by wyverns by now.
Huh. Interesting. Who were these corpses on the wayside?
Traders on the way to Windholm. We told them the same I'm telling you, but of course, that Ulan wouldn't listen. They did have some good cargo, though. So at least their deaths helped someone.
It took one of your men, too, didn't it?
A woman. But yeah, it did. Yelena. That fucking beast burnt her skin right off her skull. She'll be the last one we lose, though, I can promise you that.
Val Draigin. I'm guessing that's Hibernian for dragon.
Actually, it's the other way round. Dragon is common for Draigin. That's where the word came from in the first place.
So it's true. There's an elder in the oasis.
That's what I just said.
I think that dragon is here for me.
Are you sure? I heard it was here for that marvelous cheesecake they made in Everlight.
I'm not joking. There has been a magical outbreak 4 weeks ago, and I was responsible for it. We have reason to believe that this dragon is headed to our camp.
An outbreak, huh? That's what Pavlos said, too. Well, if that's the case, you should probably talk to him yourself.
I assume Pavlos is your leader.
Ayras, yes. He's just down that slope. I still think you're better off leaving, but I can't stop you, can I? Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to make preparations.
Valis Draigin? Whoever these guys are, they aren't Hibernians, Tahar.
What makes you think that?
Hibernians were 8 feet tall and had light green eyes and pitch black, slightly blue.
Tundea. I don't know who you are, but it's best if you turn around right now.
Yeah, we know the story. One of your men told us all about it. We're here for that dragon, same as you.
You are? Huh. Normally, I'd tell you to run as far as you can. But I have to admit, you people have an impressive aura. Tell me, how did you learn of the Draigin?
The Iron Falcons told us about it. We have reason to believe it's here for us.
Explain.
Well, you're a mage, right?
Yes.
Then I'm sure you noticed a shift in a magical pattern some weeks ago. One that also ended the bloodburn.
There have been a lot of magical oddities recently. But yes, I think I know what you're talking about. That was also when that purity lunatic started creating his machines. So, what are you implying? That you had something to do with that shift?
So to speak, yes. We assume that the Elder sensed it and now feels drawn to me, for whatever reason.
Nonsense.
No. Actually, it isn't, Kivron. This is the first sighting of an Elder since the War of the Six Races. And back then, it was also a magical explosion that woke him. And this man isn't lying. His aura is remarkable, in every aspect. Listen, let me make you an offer. What would you say about joining forces? You are powerful, no question about that. But still, you and your little entourage won't be enough to go up against an Elder.
How can you help us? You're only a handful of warriors.
A handful of Valis Dragin. I know you're powerful. Only a fool wouldn't see that. But fighting Draconoids is what we do for a living. Without our help, that Dragin will smother you.
Did you ever fight an Elder before?
Saras Jodul. As I said, the last time an Elder was sighted was during the War of the Six Races. So no, we haven't. But that doesn't change the fact that we know more about Draconoids than anybody else on Io. But please, if you are so eager to get killed, go ahead. I will not beg.
Are you sure killing him is the only way?
Well, you can also let him kill you, if that's what you prefer. I don't know where you get your ideas from, but Dragin are beasts, as you might have been able to tell from the charred corpses up the hill.
Sounds good. We can use all the help we can get.
I'm happy to hear that. However, there's one more thing. No, two, actually. First of all, we want the heart and the eyes. Secondly, I'll need you to do a minor task for us first.
Why the heart and the eyes?
It's a custom. But don't worry. The scales and the claws will be more than enough to recompense you for your efforts. On that note, if you have the coin, I can also talk to Reeve and see if he'd be willing to turn those scales into an armor for you.
You're talking about a dragon scale armor?
Yes, but I cannot make any promises yet. Reeve can be complicated when it comes to such matters.
What minor task? We shouldn't be wasting our time.
You're absolutely right. We shouldn't. But I need you to do this. There's a small nest of wyverns just across the pond. We're still recovering from the last battle and haven't gotten around to taking them out yet.
So, do it now.
We were going to. But if we're to fight together, my men will want to see a display of strength first. Ancient Hibernian custom. So, I suggest you come back once you're done. I'll talk to my men now.
Huh?
He wasn't telling you the whole truth, Tahar. An Elder's heart is worth more than 3 Elder Scales. Yes, made into an armor, they will be useful. But this Pavlos made sure he and his men are in the long end of the stick.
Well, I didn't know that. Let's play along for now, though.
Huh. Interesting. All right, here goes nothing. Fair enough. Let's do this.
Of course.
That way? You got it.
They won't stand a chance. Let us see.
Will do. Whatever's necessary.
I'm injured.
Here we go.
Help! Please!
That should be all of them. Let's head back to the Dragon Hunters.
More fighting. Does this never end?
I understand.
Sure.
Tondea.
The hunter we met up the hill claimed that you're all descendants of the Hibernians. If that's true, then why don't you look like them at all?
Well, let me think. Because there were dozens of generations between us and our forefathers?
Queen Aelith does look Hibernian. Tall, green eyes, black hair.
Yes, but the Aeliths kept their bloodline clear through generations of incest. Our families didn't have that luxury.
I was wondering, what do you people do if there aren't any elder dragons around to kill?
As I told you, we kill draconoids, wyverns, cave lizards, mountain wraiths. The list goes on.
Fair enough. But how do you make a living? Not every wyvern has accidentally swallowed a wealthy merchant, has it?
No, but wealthy merchants and wealthy lords pay well to be safe from them. There's more feral draconoids in just Northander than we could kill in a lifetime. But, of course, this is the real thing. Hunting down an elder. There's more honor in that than in all the wyverns we've killed in the past 10 years.
We cleared out the nest.
Very good. I also told my men about my idea. And though they weren't exactly thrilled, they agreed to help out.
Great. Does that mean we can finally start doing what we came here for?
You're a bit too eager, considering what you're up against. But yes, we can start the hunt. I have already put together a plan.
Then fill us in.
We should attack from two sides. First, you and your people launch a frontal assault. Once you have the dragon's attention, we'll charge in from the side and drive that thing into the claws of Nor with our spears. Find a way to protect yourself against the dragon fire. Put on the same armor you'd use against a mountain-tall, ravaging ball of moon-silver daggers. And don't even try to use blunt weapons against that thing. That'll do as much good as smashing your head against the Grey Keep walls.
All right, I got it.
Good. Then we'll move up to the bushes and wait for your attack. Good luck. And try to last more than a minute.
Nihal's hammer. That thing is massive. Are you...
Tahar.
What the...
That is your name, is it not? Tahar.
It isn't attacking us. Why?
I think it's speaking to me. In my head.
You mean...
Telepathy, yes. It is the only way the two of us can communicate. An interesting group you have gathered around you, Shaper Child. Have you come to kill me? The way you cling to your weapons makes it seem so.
Tahar, talk to us. What's happening?
I think she wants to talk.
Maybe. I know why you are here. You are worried that I have come to destroy your city, Mullendeer, as I have done before.
Are you?
That was my plan, yes.
Why? What have we done to you?
It is not about what you have done. It is about what you will do. You are Zarlandep, A shaper, as you call them. You were asleep, but now you have awoken. And as all of your kind, you will bring doom to the world.
Tahar, what's it saying?
Wait, I don't understand. What do you mean by bring doom to the world?
It is impressive. All the clues are there, right in front of your eyes. Yet you do not see it.
See what? Maybe if you stopped talking in riddles, I would.
I am not talking in riddles. It has merely been a very, very long time since I have talked at all. But since you are not as much of a brute as I would have anticipated, maybe there is no harm in explaining. Before I neutralize you, the Zarlanthep, we the Elders, were the ones who killed them. It was neither spite nor hunger that drove us, as the myths would have you believe. It was because of what they had become, what they fancied themselves as.
Which was?
Gods. They had done what nobody should have. They had tamed the essence, and learned to use it for their ends. You have seen the results. Enslaved minds, a world empire, telepathy, and the power to destroy life in a snap of a finger. They would have broken the world in two if we had not intervened. So, we did.
You killed them?
Yes. People misunderstand us, Tahar. We are not beasts like most people. We are watchers, and we do what the Guardians could not. The world is tiring, and life after millennia becomes a burden. We do not rejoice in it. But we have a responsibility.